What's up, everybody? This is Brian Wilkerson from MA-Motorsports, and we're back working on Brian Hopp's S13. It is a pretty cool build, shaping up to be at least, and excited to show you guys some more of it. In this video, we're basically going to finalize the chassis paint, as we got the car back from paint and it wasn't really finished. We have to kind of like finish the underside of the vehicle, and we're also going to assemble a bunch of stuff to it now that it will be all painted, and kind of get it to a point where it's at least like a roller, and then from there we can move it around the shop a little easier, but also it's just a nice milestone to reach. And then we're going to begin plumbing and any further fabrication, fitting up the rest of the body work that we didn't already fit up and such. Shane did it. We made these, I'm not even sure what to call them. It's like a side rotisserie, basically, and they bolt on to where the crash bar structures bolt on. And it's so we can turn Brian here's chassis on its side, because the underside didn't get painted like it was supposed to, so now we're gonna paint it. This is just gonna be a lot easier than trying to paint it like from the underside, like if we just leave it on a lift. And also we can move it into our dyno room. We take the dyno out, and we have like this enclosed space with a big fan to extract and keep the dust off everything else. So we keep covers on everything in here anyway, but we turned our dyno room into a giant makeshift paint booth for now, so we can paint Brian's chassis. I'll take you in there and show you what we got going on. So here we are. So again, we are painting the underside of this car. The place that did the paint work we thought was going to do it, but some sort of miscommunication, I guess. You can see we got our little kind of side mounted rotisserie brackets we made so we can roll the car on its side. But otherwise, it's not, you know, this isn't really a dyno cell. It was just like some big, I don't know what they did in this room, but we think maybe they painted or processed something in this room. It has like this slit here in the opening that goes, that's for the crane, as far as we can tell. So they would crane something in here and then hang it and either paint it or fiberglass it or something. So today it's a paint booth. So Kylie painted our inner fender wells. We are back to being able to put this car back together once this paint dries. So we finally got all that done after waiting on some paint, and we are gonna be back in business here soon. It's dark in here, but I assure you, it looks pretty damn good. This car is gonna get put back together. Exciting stuff. So we're trying to get the front of this engine all dressed and put together before we put it in the car. It'll just be easier to work on, and it's easier to sort stuff out when the engine's out of the car, considering we have a bunch of unknowns here. So we bought this motor plate kit, and people seem to have had good success with it, but this block that we got, it doesn't fit the block properly. I had to add a bunch of material here and mill it down and bolt that through, and I had to bolt this here and cut all this up to kind of make space for everything. And then over here on this side, our alternator, which is supposed to bolt up in here, is hitting the block casting here. So I'm gonna start by like grinding on this block here and see if I can get my alternator to fit. And then once the alternator goes on, we'll be able to mount the power steering pump as well and get our belt drive all sorted. Again, I just want to do this while the engine's out of the car. All this little stuff is just easier to work on here.
What's the wood do? What if I just clamp it?
So I got my block all ground down. That was fair amount of work, and it's still super tight. But luckily that was like just a dead space in there. And this is an oil port that we're not even going to use, so that helps. And then the plug that goes in here, I even put that in the lathe and took some material off of it so that I have even more clearance. The alternator still is like just a plastic on the back of it, kind of like touches this just barely, but it should be fine. No issues there. These LS engines, they have all of them, whether they're aftermarket heads or OEM heads. They have these steam ports like in each corner of the cylinder head, front and rear, and so we always try and bleed all the coolant, like coolant air bubbles can get trapped in here, so we always bleed them all off. And this time we're using this Earls kit. Normally we use another company's product, but Earls makes these. They swivel, they're low profile, kind of cool. And then they also make a hardline kit that you can get. Comes with this, so we're going to use all of their kit basically, except for this. This you would just clamp a hose to. We're not going to do that. We're going to actually run all 4 of these to the radiator hose going to the back of the car. So nice to save some time. Cool little kit. And I'm just greasing these O-rings before they go on the back of the cylinder head. Even more progress on getting this thing put together, the engine that is. We got our steam port kit all put together. Of course we had to modify it. Even if this wasn't here, I feel like we still would have had to modify this one leg. I put a little jog in the bend so that you can still unbolt your regulator without having to disconnect your fuel system. So that's all there. Not sure if we're gonna have that pointing that way or that way yet. And I mocked up our radiator hoses. You have to do -12 O-ring direct to crimp here because space is tight everywhere. And I got our power steering pump mounted. Had to modify that bracket there, shorten a bunch of hardware, and that is on. And we got our alternator on too, thanks to the block massaging. So we have a front accessory drive on this engine, which is nice. So it's pretty close to going in the car. We also put the chassis on the lift. We started installing some of the basic suspension footprint components. That is the front subframe and steering rack here, in anticipation of dropping the engine in soon. Got the rear subframe bolted in too. And then we started unboxing our suspension stuff. He's getting the full WiseFab front and rear on this thing. And we spec'd out a bunch of hardware, so it's all new suspension hardware, which will be nice. Instead of using like tired old rusty Nissan stuff from 30 years ago, all brand new bolts. Some of it we get from McMaster, a couple of them we get from the dealer, and then some are just aftermarket stuff, so that makes life easier. And you know, you're building a whole brand new car, probably want to have nice new hardware on it too. At least we do. This car will be a roller next week, which is exciting. So we got all the suspension on Brian's S13 here, using WiseFab front and rear, Feel 442 two-way shocks, Swift springs on there, lightweight Willwood brake kit, MA subframe of course. This thing is ready to be a roller. Turned out pretty good underneath. You know, we're not a body shop, but it worked out. Here's the front stuff. No sway bars yet, but we do have everything bolted on loosely, just so we can roll this thing around, which is kind of a big deal. Engine is in for good. Mounted in there. Now we can start plumbing and finish some fabrication work. Should be pretty sweet. Front drive is all installed on the engine. We have the power steering pump, Power Master alternator, power steering from KRC, fuel regulator mounted under here. We started plumbing here. In the next video you're not going to want to miss. It's going to be a lot of plumbing, most likely, and header building as well. Thanks for watching this one. Subscribe to keep track of this awesome project and all the other cool stuff we do around here. I'll see you on the next one.